If there are people in your life who constantly disrespect you, stop hoping they'll suddenly feel bad about it, because they won't. Toxic people don't lose sleep over how they treated you. They don't replay the conversation at 2 a.m. wondering if they went too far. You do that. They don't. But that doesn't mean you're powerless. It means you've been fighting the wrong battle. And this isn't about being louder or having the perfect comeback. It's about what you do at the exact moment they try to disrespect you. So stay with me, because I'm going to give you the exact 6 responses you need if you're dealing with toxic people. But before we get into them, you need to understand something important. I can't promise these will make toxic people magically change. Some won't. Some will double down. Some will call you rude once you start using these. But once your responses change, their access to you changes too. They may not respect you, but they will think twice every single time after that. The first one response: I'm not having this conversation if that's how you're going to speak to me. It sounds simple, right? Almost too simple. But this line is one of the most powerful boundaries you can use with a toxic person. Not because it's clever, but because it removes one thing they rely on the most: your reaction. Think about what toxic people want in a confrontation. They want to see you angry, explaining and defending yourself. That's the fuel, which keeps the argument alive. And when you stop giving them that fuel, they don't have a trigger to pull. You're simply saying, this conversation only continues under basic respect. Now picture this in a real moment. You're at work. Someone snaps at you in front of others. Your old instinct kicks in. Explain. Justify. Prove you didn't deserve it. But this time you don't play the role they expect. You look at them calmly and say, I'm not having this conversation if that's how you're going to speak to me. And then you stop. And in that silence, something changes. They might not show it on their face, but they feel it, because they're not used to someone telling them they aren't interested in arguments with them. But now, you're not giving them access to that version of you anymore. If they can't offer basic respect, then the conversation has no reason to continue. The second one: what response are you hoping to get from me right now? This one hits differently, because it doesn't argue with what they said. It goes straight to why they said it. Here's the thing about toxic people: they don't just say hurtful things randomly. There's always a payoff they're looking for. And this question exposes that, out loud and straight to their face. The moment you ask it, the conversation shifts direction. You're no longer stuck in defending yourself or explaining your side. Now focus is their intention. And most people never ask that directly, because most people are too busy reacting to even think of it. So when you stay calm and say, what response are you hoping to get from me right now? You're not attacking them. You're stepping outside the frame they built. Imagine a family member makes a passive-aggressive comment disguised as a joke. A little dig, something you're supposed to defend so they can say, relax, it was just a joke. Instead of defending yourself, pause and ask, what response were you hoping to get from me just now? Suddenly it turns out, their jokes aren't funny anymore, not because you got angry, but because you didn't play your assigned role. Now they have to sit with what they actually said, and that's uncomfortable for them, because the joke only works if you enjoy it. The moment you don't, and you ask that question instead, they're exposed. Not by directly attacking them, by simply refusing to defend. They might laugh it off and say, oh, what's wrong with you? I was just joking. But something shifts, because for the first time, you're not reacting on autopilot. And that's why this question works, because not only it doesn't give them what they want, but also makes them unable to hide without being exposed. The third one: you seem upset. We can continue when you're calmer. This is where things get truly interesting. Here's what's actually happening beneath the surface. Toxic people don't just want to win the argument, they want something deeper than that. They want to destabilize you. They want to drag you into their emotional chaos. Because the moment your voice raises, the moment your hands shake, the moment you start stumbling over your words, that's when they're winning. And most people fall for it every single time because it feels instinctive just to defend yourself. But the moment you say this response, suddenly you're not the reactive one. They are. You're not the one who lost control. They are. And here's why it's devastating for them. Because first you've named what's happening. They are upset and refuse to absorb it to become yours. It's like saying, I see what you're doing, and I'm not joining you there. There's another layer to this too. This line also sets a condition. It says, I will talk to you, but only as an adult talking to another adult. If they want something from you, your time, your attention, they have to earn it by regulating themselves first. You're not refusing the conversation. You're simply postponing it until the conditions make it worth having. Because here's what it communicates underneath the words. Your emotional state is not my responsibility to manage. If you want to talk, you come back calm. If you don't want to come back calm, that's fine too. And that is what makes people feel it, because you refuse to play the game until the conditions are met. The fourth response, a simple no. That's it. There is a full stop after that and nothing else. And for a lot of people, this is the hardest response of all, because you are trained to soften everything, to explain yourself by adding more arguments to make sure toxic people would finally understand your reasoning. But toxic dynamics don't struggle with no, they struggle with explanations, because explanations can be rejected, but a simple no can't. Think about it. Every time you've said, I can't because, or I'm not sure because, you've probably ended up in a conversation where someone tried to negotiate or persuade why you are wrong, and they are right. But no closes that door immediately, because there is nothing else to argue about. And that's exactly what makes it powerful, because toxic people who try to disrespect you often try to control your understanding, and once they get that, they will find a way how to work around that. But this time that there's nothing to work with, just a simple no. Fifth, I'm not discussing this anymore. This is not about winning the conversation. It's about recognizing when the conversation stopped being productive a long time ago. Because conversations with disrespectful people aren't designed to solve anything. They're designed to keep you stuck, going around in the same circle until you're exhausted enough to prove them wrong. That's why this response is so powerful. It breaks the cycle, because every part of you will want to keep going, to clear things up or to be understood, to make sure the other person doesn't walk away upset. But not every conversation deserves another explanation, and not every disagreement needs to be resolved immediately. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do in a conversation with a toxic person is to stop participating. Not now, not like this, not on these terms. And yes, that will feel uncomfortable at first, because your brain craves closure. But some people use that need against you. They know you'll stay in the conversation long after it stopped being useful. That's why learning to tolerate an unfinished conversation is such a powerful skill. Because the moment you stop chasing resolution at any cost, you become much harder to manipulate. Sometimes the strongest move isn't having the last word. It's deciding the conversation no longer deserves your energy. And the last one, this isn't worth my energy. Here's why it works. Most people, when they're disrespected, feel this automatic pull to respond, to explain why what was said was wrong, why they deserve better, why the other person is out of line. And I get it, it feels like the right thing to do, like you owe it to yourself to fight back. But here's the truth nobody tells you. The moment you start justifying your worth to someone who just disrespected you, you've already handed them something. You've handed them your reaction, and that's all they wanted. So you did this so easily, and they didn't even need to try so hard. Next time you can expect them to do the same, because if it was so easily with you first time, they'll feel excited to try disrespecting you next time. So when you say, this isn't worth my energy, you're not just dismissing the comment, you're dismissing them without a single raised voice. You're saying, I looked at what you're saying, I weighed it up and I decided it doesn't even qualify for a real response. And that works differently because insults expect a reaction. But when you give nothing, when you look at someone causing a scene and you say those 5 words with complete calm, they realize something uncomfortable. They have no power here to force you to play their dirty games. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know which one of these responses are you actually going to use. Or maybe you've already tried one of these and watched someone's whole attitude change in real time. Please tell me about it, I want to know. And if this is the kind of content that makes you think differently about how you deal with rude and disrespectful people, hit subscribe to Healthy Mind CEO